In Venezuela, life is back to normal as authorities fully restore power after suffering an attack on its power grid. In Cuba, the National Institutes of Health announced the cancellation of research on the so-called Havana syndrome disease. In Palestine, Israeli troops prevent the entry of Red Crescent Society rescue teams to bombarded areas west of Jenin. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Venezuela, life returns to normal with total restoration of electricity across the country following a sabotage against the power grid. Venezuelan authorities say they are monitoring the total resumption of power generation from a center in Guyana. The attack to the electric system by sectors of the Venezuelan far right caused a blackout throughout several states in the country. At present, people in Venezuela are resuming their daily lives as business activities and public transportation have been restored. And in the face of the sabotage against the national electricity system of Venezuela, traders and entrepreneurs implemented strategies to get over difficulties. More details with our correspondent Gladys Quesada.
This is the LeBron Market at the entrance of Petare, one of the most popular areas of Caracas, the capital of Venezuela. Many of those who have their stalls here will open their doors normally this Saturday. However, the day before, due to the sabotage against the national electric system, they took measures.
What we were able to do was to see that there was no electricity, and then we automatically took the second option, which was to get out mainly from what was cold. The people accepted. We gave them the explanation that there was no electricity, and then they took it raw. I went out to work because we have to produce. In other words, we have to wait in holy peace. We have to be calm, especially because the conditions of the country are such that we have to work, because fighting is not the way to win anything.
Although many looked for alternatives to stay active, it played a trick on others.
Because people always have their cash and they need anything. So we were here and we fulfilled what was needed.
No, because I couldn't come. There wasn't a light.
Yesterday, I was affected precisely because of the lack of electricity. I couldn't work because we couldn't move. I live on the 11th floor and I couldn't go downstairs.
On the other side of the situation, customers and passers-by also had a different Friday because of the lack of electricity. However, they found a city and businesses that, although at a different pace, followed the rhythm.
They believed that they were going to have some activity in the population. On the contrary, the population was mobilized. We did well except for the subway that couldn't work, precisely to avoid some major inconveniences, and the people were mobilized. The people went to work even when we were unable to work due to lack of electricity, but we were present.
100% are active, thanks to God, 100% active, and that is understood that Venezuela really wants to move forward, and in spite of everything that was happening at the moment, what it does is to delay us.
People went out to work peacefully even though there was no subway service in some circumstances. At least, I saw a lot of movement in the streets. The merchants opened their doors like a normal day. I don't think there was any impediment to continue growing as a country.
According to official figures, more than 1,400,000 Venezuelans are registered as entrepreneurs, whose economic growth in the first semester of 2024 reached 15%. Attacking them is an attack against a pillar of the prosperity of the country. However, they are motivated by their commitment.
We're in the best country on this world, which is Venezuela. It is what it has given us, and it is what the Venezuelan people are. People that give love, affection and work. And that is what we want, and that is why we fight for this country, to move forward and long live Venezuela.
Gladys Quesada, TeleSUR, Caracas, Venezuela.
In our news, in Brazil, at least 4 people were killed on Saturday after gunmen shot at a group of people in a bar in the southeast of the country. The attack, which also left 5 people injured, 2 of them seriously, occurred in Rio de Janeiro at the entrance of the Congonhas slum, located in the populous area of Madureira. The Municipal Health Secretariat reported that the dead victims were taken to the local rapid care unit, where they arrived lifeless, while the wounded were sent to the Getulio Vargas Hospital, where they are receiving the necessary medical attention. We stay also in Brazil. Public agencies rescued 593 people working in slavery-like conditions. Among the 593 people rescued were a 16-year-old minor and a 19-year-old woman who had been working as a domestic for 64 years in a house. Likewise, 13 Paraguayan immigrants were rescued who were working in a charcoal factory on a ranch in Rio Grande do Sul, and 4 Argentines forced to work cutting eucalyptus trees were freed. It should be noted that until 2022, more than 60,000 people were removed from work similar to slavery in the country. Let's now take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Cuba, the National Institute of Health announced the cancellation of research on the so-called Havana syndrome disease. The experts detailed the decision is based on declarations of several of the participants that state that they were forced to participate in the research. For the investigations, the institution requires the consent of the subjects on the study as an ethical guarantee of the research. Likewise, the institute declared that during the first phases, no clinical signs or active symptomatology were found in the participants. And the majority of Mexican Parliament refuses to comply with the decision of 2 courts that ordered the suspension of judicial reform discussions. In the words of the coordinator of Morena's parliamentary group, Ricardo Monreal, the instructions of a court in Morelos and another in Chiapas were inadmissible and out of order. In both cases, the judges ordered the 2 chambers to abstain from discussing any project related to the reform. Monreal assures that these maneuvers reflect the desperation of some sectors that are trying to preserve their privileges to the detriment of the Mexican people.
In
such premises, this legislative majority categorically and energetically determines that it does not and will not submit to the jurisdiction of the court or courts that order it because they do not have authority for it, because they cannot suspend the analysis and discussion, and, if necessary, approval of the decision regarding the constitutional reform in judicial matters.
In Japan, the powerful typhoon Shanshan, which affected transportation and heavily hit the country's infrastructure, has been downgraded to a tropical storm. According to local media, citizens remain on alert for possible landslides due to heavy storms, while ANA and Japan Airlines cancel at least 60 local flights due to bad weather conditions. Shinkansen bullet trains have also been suspended in the central city of Nagoya. So far, the storm has left at least 6 people dead and 120 injured, as well as more than 32,000 households without power in the southern region of Kagoshima. The French Coast Guard reported on Saturday that 223 migrants have been rescued in the waters of the English Channel in the last 48 hours while trying to reach the United Kingdom. The Maritime Prefecture reported that the migrants were traveling in several small overloaded boats with technical problems. Some of the migrants were in the water at the time of rescue after their boat sank, while others refused help with the intention of reaching the British coast. The United Kingdom has tried to stop the arrival of migrants from France, while Europe has only succeeded in aggravating the lethality of transit routes of those trying to flee hunger, war, and violence. Russian military forces repelled a massive Ukrainian drone attack on Sunday. At least 11 of the devices were aimed at Moscow, the country's capital city. According to the Defense Ministry, more than 160 drones were launched from Kiev against several Russian regions. 3 of them were aimed at the power plant of the city of Kachira in the Moscow province. The regional government confirmed that there were no injuries, casualties, or material damage. One of the drones shot down over Moscow fell on an oil refinery, where a fire broke out. In other provinces such as Voronezh, Ryazan, Belgorod, and Tula, more than 85 of these unmanned air vehicles were also shot down. And in Turkey, the Minister of Defense Ahmet Güler pronounced himself in favor of the re-establishment of relations with Syria and the possibility of solving the conflicts between both nations. Güler recalled President Erdogan's recent statements about his readiness to meet with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and noted that this possibility was positively received in Damascus. He stressed that the first meeting between the heads of states could take place in August in Baghdad or at the Kasab border checkpoint. It's worth noting that a Turkish newscast indicated that conditions are currently being prepared for a meeting between the heads of Syrian and Turkish diplomacy and then between the defense ministers. UN's Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed visited Sudan and Chad to address the humanitarian crisis stemming from ongoing conflicts. While in Chad, Mohammed emphasized the urgent need for global solidarity to combat famine and support millions affected by violence and displacement. Since April 2023, fighting between the Sudan Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Forces has led to a humanitarian disaster with over 25 million people in Sudan facing acute hunger. During her visit, Mohammed welcomed the reopening of the other border crossing, which is crucial for delivering aid to Sudan, particularly to regions like Darfur. Despite the ongoing efforts, the UN's appeal for $2.7 billion in humanitarian aid remains significantly underfunded, highlighting the dire need for more resources to address the crisis effectively.
We did not succeed in Sudan yet. This is a small amount. We did not succeed in Chad. It's a small amount. So the crises in the world are many, and what we need for the international community to do is to bring more resources. Today we are funding maybe 18 to 25, 30% of the needs. So commitments made by governments need to be fulfilled so that we can help the people of the world in need, those that are in need. Gaza is in need. We need a ceasefire. It's very important for us to stop the war in Sudan. There is a political process. But at the same time, the generosity of Chad, the floods, the needs of Chad also need to be taken care of with the refugees that they are taking into their host community.
Like this, we have come for a second short break. Coming up but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at TeleSUR English, there will be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. For a short break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Palestine, Israeli troops prevent the entry of Red Crescent Society's rescue teams in the town of Kafr, west of Jenin. Tel Aviv regime forces prevented healthcare personnel from transferring injured people after a Palestinian civilian vehicle was shot at the entrance of the village of Kafr, west of Jenin. The international organization denounces the refusal of the occupation army soldiers to allow the care of the wounded, resulting from the constant bombardment of the area. Obstruction even affects private vehicles that facilitate the transfer of victims. Also in Palestine, families fled from the Jenin refugee camp on Saturday during the fourth day of the deadliest Israeli operation in the occupied West Bank. Those fleeing the area, mostly women and children, were seen passing by Israeli soldiers standing near the camp. In this context, Orwa al-Shalabi, a Jenin resident who fled with her young child, told that she and her family took refuge in their kitchen when they first heard shooting. Al-Shalabi fled with her two dear children, her sister and her three nephews, including a 4-month-old baby. Israel says the raids across northern West Bank, which have killed at least 20 people since late Tuesday, are aimed at preventing attacks.
When we felt afraid for our children and couldn't lift our heads from the ground, we left our house. I was carrying my daughter like this on the ground. It was totally unsafe because all the windows and glass were falling around us. We were hiding in the kitchen because it was far from the street behind our house. However, when the Israeli soldiers entered from the back street and started shooting at the windows from multiple directions, we couldn't do anything and felt that one of us would die. We began screaming that we had small children, but they, the Israeli soldiers, didn't respond at first. The more we screamed, the more they shot at the house, shattering the TV and the windows around us. The Israeli soldiers locked us in a room at the beginning, and when we went out the men were tied to the floor. Then they brought us out and made us stand against the wall for half an hour. They took our phones and searched them. We told them we had children and were standing under the sun, so they ordered us to walk in the middle of the street and not to go right or left.
And Israel bombed another hospital in Gaza, in this case the Al Ali Hospital, the only one that currently offers services to the people after the destruction of the Al Shifa Hospital. The attack left several dead and some children wounded. Let's listen to some testimonies.
This is the only place in Gaza City that provides services to citizens after the destruction of Al Shifa Central Hospital in Gaza City. Unfortunately, this targeting led to the death of a martyr and a number of serious injuries. We call on international institutions to take a serious stand to prevent such criminal acts that occur in the Gaza Strip and target hospitals in particular.
The hospital is a safe place. There is no resistance or anything else. The people here have nothing to do with anything. This is their targeting of a 4-year-old girl and of a 4-month-old.
Also in Israel, thousands of citizens protested across the country, calling on Benjamin Netanyahu to reach an agreement with Palestine. According to local media, Israeli people gathered in the streets north of the capital, Tel Aviv, to demand that Prime Minister signs an agreement to release Israeli detainees in the Gaza Strip. In this sense, demonstrators expressed their rejection of the growing tensions over the approval of the continued presence of Zionist troops on the Philadelphia route. This comes days after the Palestinian resistance movement, Hamas, declared that the negotiations in Egypt with Israel did not produce results and are on the verge of collapse. The Speaker of Parliament of Lebanon, Nabih Berri, described the Israeli regime as an absolute evil and stressed the prohibition of dealing with the Zionist entity. In a speech on the 46th anniversary of the disappearance of the politician Musa al-Assad and his companions Mohammad Yaqub and Abbas Berdardin, the leader of the Lebanese parliament reaffirmed the duty to support Gaza and the rights of the Palestinian people, while also underlining the need to stop the Israeli massacre against the enclave. And through a press release, the Yemeni army informed that they successfully carry out military operations against vessels affiliated to the Israeli regime in the Gulf of Aden.
The Yemeni armed forces carried out a military operation against the ship, Grat and Ed, in the Gulf of Aden due to the violation of a ban on entering the ports of occupied Palestine by the company that owns the ship. The operation was carried out by naval, unmanned aerial vehicle and missile forces, and the ship was accurately hit.
The military spokesman also confirmed the success in preventing the navigation of Israeli ships in the Red Sea and declared that the two operations were carried out in support of the people of Gaza.
This is the second attack on the ship since it was targeted earlier on August 3rd. The Yemeni armed forces confirmed their success in preventing Israeli navigation in the Red Sea, as well as enforcing their decision to prohibit the navigation of all ships affiliated or related to the Israeli enemy, regardless of their destination, or ships belonging to companies affiliated to this enemy in the declared area of operations.
In Syria, the city of Aleppo reopened 4 old markets that had been devastated since 2011 during the war imposed on it. Now the city is reborn, with many people returning to reopen their places of sale.
Estos mercados de la ciudad vieja, conocidos como socos,
These old city markets, known as souks, were rebuilt through the combined efforts of public and private entities. Officials, residents, and representatives of charitable organizations were present during the inauguration. The restoration allows these places to regain their vitality and functionality of 14 years ago, playing an important role not only in reviving the region's economy, but also in preserving its cultural and historical heritage.
Gracias a Dios, las cosas han mejorado.
Thank God. Things have improved and even the country has improved. As the situation in the country improves, our circumstances improve along with it. Today, expatriates return from abroad and open their homes, finding their carpets damaged by moths. They proceed to repair them because some of these carpets hold personal memories, and others are of special value to them.
Especial para ellos.
Approximately 160 commercial stores organized in about 100 meters throughout the city were restored prior to the reopening of these 4 markets, joining those that had already been recovered earlier. Even so, government authorities indicated that 37 other old markets in Aleppo are still to be rehabilitated.
During the war years, almost every day I would stand on the balcony of our house and look at the night sky, always saying, after the night the light will come. For the last 4 days, I have been sleeping only 1 or 2 hours, and I can't believe when the dawn comes, I come to old Aleppo to reorganize my tent, because I have memories with every stone on it.
Aleppo, located in the north of the country, was liberated from radical groups in 2016 after heavy fighting with the Syrian army. It was almost completely destroyed. However, since 2018, a reconstruction process has been underway to restore the essence of this whole city, declared a World Heritage Site since 1986.
At least we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.